It is the lack of investment from the state into our communities that is bankrupting us, and Proposition 2.5 is letting us know that.
Following the release of the Fiscal Alliance Foundation study, Proposition 2.5, Keeping Property Taxes Low Since 1980, we spoke with current and former local elected officials about the importance of Proposition 2.5.
Prop 2.5 is a tool for fiscal management that is sustainable and sensible so that we don't fall off the cliff.
I always like to look at things and say, hey, how do I prioritize, where my money goes? I think Prop 2.5 helps us do that, helps the towns do that, helps the voters do that. It really gives us a good kind of direct lever with people and with our towns. I don't think we really have that sometimes with the state, but it gives a lot of control locally, and I think that's real important.
We asked them what's the real reason why cities and towns find themselves in a fiscal crunch. And just as our study shows, they all said the lack of state aid is the problem.
State aid was starting to decrease in percentage and not following inflation. That gap, or what we used to get in state aid, is having to be made up locally. And it's creating what I call a collision of our revenues and expenses. Hence, we need to do an override, or we need to cut back on certain things.
Tax policy expert Jared Walczak authored the study.
In 2022, state aid accounted for $11.04 billion in local revenue. Property taxes generated $19.77 billion that year. Now, Massachusetts, if it funded municipalities at the national average rate, would have provided localities with an additional $1.82 billion. Let's put that in context. That's the equivalent of local governments collecting an additional 9% on the property tax. And in the most recent year for which we have data available, that's 2023, if you look at local aid actually as a per capita measure, it's $1,673 per person. The national average is $2,118. So if Massachusetts funded localities at the national per capita average, that would be an additional $3.14 billion in 2023. That's equal to 15% higher property tax collections. So when you think about property taxes, when you think about the rates that are in place now and what needs to be in place, one of the really important takeaways here is that there's been more pressure on property tax because state aid to localities has not kept up.
When I look at the state budget, it's like $63 billion and change for FY27. I think the real question is for a town, what are we getting back from the state? We put in a lot proportionally, and are we really getting that back in the form of grant aid and Chapter 70 and Chapter 90?
The current administration on Beacon Hill is creating what I relate to as a physical dumpster fire. And that dumpster fire is triggering the smoke alarm. And the analogy is Proposition 2.5 is that alarm. 2.5 is our friend. It protects us. We should not change it. We should not repeal it. It is critical to keeping Massachusetts affordable.
To learn more about how much you'd be paying in property taxes if not for Prop 2.5, read our full study, Proposition 2.5, Keeping Property Taxes Low Since 1980. Visit FiscalAllianceFoundation.org. The Fiscal Alliance Foundation is a nonpartisan, nonprofit 501c3 organization. Visit our website to read more about our alternative energy policy studies, sign up for important email updates, make a tax-deductible contribution, and follow us on social media.